Hi guys. Chapter 4, The Boy at the Back of the Class. What Mr. Brown and Mrs. Grimsby said. My dad used to say that if you really, really want something, you have to keep on trying for it. And since he used to say that he had everything he could ever want, I guessed he must have known all about trying for things. I knew that I wanted to be friends with Ahmet. I didn't really know why, I just did. I gave up on trying to speak to him during the day because of all of the seclusion that he needed. But I figured after school was okay because Mrs. Khan had smiled and winked at me that first time. So every day for 2 whole weeks I waited by the school gates for him at home time. As soon as the new boy and Mrs. Khan came out to meet the woman in the red scarf, I'd run over and give the new boy a lemon sherbet. Sometimes a whole chocolate bar. But no matter how many sweets I gave him, or how much Mrs. Khan encouraged him to talk to me, the new boy never said a word and never ever smiled back. Not even when I gave him a whole packet of white mice, which are my favourite. He just quietly took the sweets and, staring at the floor, he just went and stood behind the woman with the red scarf as if he needed to hide from me. Maybe he doesn't like sweets, said Michael on the Friday of the second week. Don't be silly, said Josie, chewing on her hair. Everybody likes sweets. Maybe he's allergic, said Tom. I'd never heard of anyone being allergic to chocolate or sweets before. But then again, I was allergic to dogs and no one else was. So maybe he was right. After that, I decided to give the new boy my lunch fruit instead of my sweets. He was still going to seclusion every lunchtime. So on the Monday of the 3rd week of trying to be his friend, I took the biggest orange I could find from the school canteen and waited by the gates. I was extra excited because I'd drawn a smiley face on the skin and Tom had given me a sticker of a dinosaur to stick on it, which was 2 things that made the orange extra special. Tom loves collecting stickers. He has books and books of them at home, and whenever he gets a new one he likes, he always brings it in to show us. I've never seen him give a sticker away to anyone he doesn't know very well, so I hope the new boy would like it and know just how special it was. But as we were waiting for the new boy to come out, we heard something about him that we didn't understand. In fact, it was even more confusing than learning about the seclusion that he was being given. There were lots of grown-ups standing behind us at the gates, as there always are at home time. Sometimes they talk about the news or what they're making for tea, but mostly they talk about the weather. I don't know why, because there's nothing more boring than talking about something that everybody else can see for themselves, but I guess that's what you're meant to do when you're a grown-up. Usually we don't listen because we have more interesting things to talk about, like what we're going to watch as soon as we get home, or who our favourite Olympic athlete or footballer is. But this afternoon, just after someone had said how sunny it was and wasn't it lovely and how they hoped it would be sunny again tomorrow, someone else said, "Have you heard about the new refugee kid that's joined the school? He's been put in Miss Khan's class. They can't find an assistant to speak his language. Poor little blighter." Josie and Michael and Tom all looked over at me and I looked back at them and we all stood still together. I knew we were all thinking the exact same thing because our faces frowned at the exact same time. We were wondering what a refugee kid was doing in our class. Then the lady who had talked about the sun said, "It'll cause trouble, you mark my words. They're only coming over to steal our jobs." Carefully, so that no one else would see us, we all looked over our shoulders and saw that it was Mr. Brown and Mrs. Grimsby who were talking. Mr. Brown shrugged and said, "If he's from that awful war on the news, I feel sorry for the kid. Can't blame him, eh, for wanting to get out of that death trap." "Pooh," said Mrs. Grimsby. "A bother. The whole lot of them. Wouldn't trust one as far as I could throw him. You just wait and see. It's our kids who will suffer, just because those ones are coming over here to do whatever they like." I could tell Mr. Brown didn't like what she was saying because he frowned, shook his head, and then took a step to the side. I like Mr. Brown. He's Charlie's dad. Charlie's one of the boys in the upper school. Everyone knows who he is because he always steals at least 3 puddings from the pudding tray every lunchtime, so there's never enough to go around. He's also famous for setting off the fire alarm to get out the science test. He's always getting into trouble. I don't think Mr. Brown knows about that because when he cries out, "Charlie, my old boy, what you been up to today?" and Charlie says, "Nothing," and Mr. Brown beams at him, Charlie tells everyone that his dad's a boxer, but I don't think that can be true. He has a long beard, and if I was a boxer fighting him, I'd just pull his beard all the time and win. I looked to the right over at Mrs. Grimsby, her face all sour and pink and angry, and I decided that I didn't like her very much. She's the grandmother of a girl called Nellie, who's in the year below us. Nellie's one of the most popular girls in school, mainly because she's won every burping competition the school's ever had. She can even burp sing famous songs and is always challenging everyone to try and beat her. I was looking up at Mrs. Grimsby and thinking all about the things she had said when Josie suddenly poked my arm. Look! When I looked back through the railings, Mrs. Khan and the new boy were in the playground already, talking to the woman in the red scarf. So just as fast as I could, I ran and I gave the new boy the special orange. As usual, he didn't say thank you and he didn't smile, but I saw his eyes widen when I saw the drawings of the smiley face and a sticker on the orange. And for the first time ever, he looked up at me with his lion eyes and he didn't look away. I knew right away he wasn't frightened of me anymore. I stared back and gave a small smile. I wanted him to know that it didn't matter if he was a refugee kid. I still wanted to be his friend. I think he must have understood because he gave me a nod that no one else could see. I wished he had smiled back because you can only ever know that a person's really your friend when they like you, when they smile back at you. But it was okay because the nod felt like a promise, and I knew that I wouldn't have to wait long before the smile followed. And that's the end of chapter 4.